So, what does the Quran say about the beast itself? Now, the beast is mentioned in only one ayah of the Quran, just one ayah, explicitly. So it's obviously very, that obviously that's the Quran. It's just we have to just look at that ayah very carefully. Yajuj and Majuj are mentioned in a few ayahs of Quran that we're going to do next time, inshallah. But the Dabbatul Ard is only mentioned this one single ayah. And this is what it says. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا وقع القول عليهم أخرجنا لهم دابة من الأرض تكلمهم أن الناس كانوا بآياتنا لا يوقنون. And there's a couple of variant readings. As you know, there are 7 variant readings of the Quran, and 10 if you take more subtle variants as well. So in the variant reading is significant here, because in one of the main other variant reading it says Dabatan min al-ard taklimuhum. Instead of tukallimuhum, it says taklimuhum. So tukallimuhum means the beast will speak to them. But taklimuhum means that the beast will mark them or strike them. And so it's a different meaning with the other reading. And then anna nas, anna, it can also be read inna, which is a subtle difference. But for the meaning, there's a difference in the meaning, because if we say anna nas, anna means that. For those who study Arabic, they'll know it sort of means that, for that, or in that. It's sort of like an explanation of the thing before. Yeah. But if we read it inna, which is a variant reading, it becomes a new sentence. Mubtada. So it becomes completely separated to the previous. It's a new sentence. Inna, often translated as verily or surely. Yeah? Surely mankind did not have certainty in our signs. So this is how the ayah reads. So the translation, إِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ, when the word al-qawl is fulfilled, or literally waqa'a means to occur, to take place, to happen. Yeah? إِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةِ, from Surah al-Waqi'ah. Yeah? When the waqi'ah happens, when this thing happens. So what does it mean, وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ? When the word is fulfilled against them, عَلَيْهِمْ, meaning mankind. Yeah? أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ دَابَةً مِنَ الْأَرْضِ, we will raise up for them a beast from the earth. Right? The interesting thing here is lahum, akhrajna lahum. We will raise up for them, not against them. It's very important little difference in Arabic. Lahum or alayhim. Yeah? When we say lahum, it means it's for you. It's for you. So if I said al-qalamu lahu, this pen is his, it's for him, he belongs to him, it's for him. If you say alayhim, it means against them. Because we often, the reason why I'm talking about that, what I'm saying, because we often conceive of the beast as some sort of monster that's going to go around destroying people or destroying the earth. I imagine you probably conjure up some sort of big Godzilla type of creature in your mind, yeah, that's going to come out of the earth and go and smash people over the heads. But this is the thing, it says lahum. It doesn't say that the beast will be against them, it will be for them. Dabatan lahum dabatan min al-ard tukallimuhum. It will speak to them. Or taklimuhum. It will mark them or strike them. Kalim is what you do with a knife when you strike someone. It could mean mark, as we'll see many of the hadith mention mark, that the beast will mark people, mu'min or believer or disbeliever. So this could be directly linked to that. If we read it, taklimuhum, it will mark them. أَنَّ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ. It could be because or that mankind did not have certainty in our signs. Or as we said, it could be read inna nasa as a new sentence. Surely mankind did not have certainty in our signs. These ayahs don't just come out of context. There's always a surah that they are contained within. So really good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't have time to go into that today, but it's a vital thing for people for further research and reading. But it's very important because surahs, the Quran has come down in surahs. This is why I always encourage people, when you even read the Quran for yourself, read it in surahs, don't read it in juz or separas as it's known. That's my personal recommendation, because when you divide the Quran into separa or juz, it's completely arbitrary. It wasn't done by the Prophet ﷺ, that way. The way the Prophet ﷺ is revealed in surahs, chapters, as they're translated chapters. And there's a beginning, middle and end for a surah. And each surah is unique and different if you read them, They have their own even style and many, many different layers to that, So yeah, I can't give you the context now, but that's something for people to, when they study this topic further, to also look at the context of this. So إذا وقع القول عليهم. If you look at when we do tafsir of Quran, the first principle of tafsir is to do tafsir of Quran by Quran. The first thing we do, what does it mean, waqa al-qawl? The word will be fulfilled. What does that mean? We don't know. So the first thing we should do is try to find elsewhere in the Quran that talks about al-qawl, the word. What does it mean, the word? Right? So if you look elsewhere in the Quran, what you find is that this is referring to when Allah has decided to punish a people. Yeah. And once again, I haven't cross-referenced that, but people, you can. I did that little bit of cross-referencing in the Quran. You can easily do that nowadays, yeah. With simple search engine, you can find where else is it written in the Quran, al-qawl, and you'll find that waqa al-qawl means when Allah has decided to punish a people, like the people of Ad or the people of Thamud. There comes a point where they're given signs, they're given opportunities. But at a certain point, then Allah decides, and this is, in many of the stories in the Quran, Allah says, no, that's it now. The punishment is going to come upon them. But it doesn't come straight away. It may come after a few days or some time. Yeah? Like, for example, even with Nuh alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, now, that's it. None of these people are going to believe now. The punishment is due upon them. Similarly with the other prophets as well, That's it. The punishment is now binding. Their time is up. Then they have this period, before the actual punishment comes and destroys them. So this is this is the understanding that I have is that when Allah has decided that these people's time has come, now the punishment is due upon them. أخرجنا لهم دابة من الأرض. Then we will raise for them a beast from the for them, not against them. So most opinions that this will occur when people stop commanding the good and forbidding the wrong. One of the great principles of our deen, that we have to amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy al munkar. So when we come across a time, mankind generally, where that is no longer being done, most opinions converge that the beast will mark all the people. All the people. No one will escape. It will mark them believer or disbeliever. So this beast will literally mark every single human being. Every single human being. Yeah? This is pretty much all the different tafsirs and hadiths, everything you read, they all have this in common, this theme in common. It will mark them mu'min or kafir.
Is it a physical marking on the actual person, or could it be something like, for example, with technology, you can have your ID card,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
could it be like, because nowadays people hack into things and put certain images or watermarks and things. Could it not be?
Yes, that's what I think it could be. What could well be. I personally don't believe it's a physical mark. Taklimuhum, we've talked about this particular thing. Yeah, so as we're going to go on to, if you look at the society we're in now, how everyone is already marked. This is where the society is going. And this is an explicit objective of people like the US intelligence agencies and so on, that every single human on this planet should be marked. They should be known. We should have data about them. So this is exactly what we're going to argue, later on. We talked about inna nas, and we've talked about the striking taklimuhum. Now, if we look at some of the hadith about the daba, this particular ayah, as we said, there's only one ayah where the dabatul ard is mentioned. What do we find in the various tafsirs? So this is Tafsir al Baghawi. It will emerge against them, because he's put there alayhim, not lahum, alayhim. Yeah, he's put against them. Can you see that subtle difference? It will emerge against them, shaking its head from dust. Then it will pass by them and shine their faces until it leaves them like shining stars. Then it will turn about the earth, no one can catch it and no one can escape it. So once again, this idea that it will mark every single human being on the planet. Until a person will stand and seek refuge that should be, from it by prayer. But it will come to him from behind and say, oh, so-and-so, now you turn to prayer? So similarly, the idea that this will come at a time when it's too late to make your tawbah. Then he approaches it and it marks him in the face. Then it will accompany people in their homes. So this beast will enter the home of every single person on the planet and stay with them in their journeys. It will be with them wherever they go and share in their wealth. It will somehow share in their wealth. So just focus on the themes and the meanings rather than literal, I would say.
Where did the Sheikh get this from, a hadith or Israeliyat or?
Well, this is what we're going to come to later on. Yeah. So, I'll mention right now. A lot of these information in these tafsir are from very weak sources. Let's put it that way. And when we go to Tafsir of Imam al-Razi, you'll see he'll make that very explicit as well. That when we look at these descriptions about the beast, we should be very careful. But I'm just putting them there so that we know that they're there, and you know that I know that they're there as well. But yeah, a lot of them. So we have, one of the jobs, as we said last time when we were talking about methodology, is to try to find out what are the shared Because if something is stated, even if it's weak, but it's stated everywhere, the same sort of theme comes up, then that makes it stronger, that particular point, you know. So in Tafsir al Baghawi, another narration says that the beast does not have a tail, but it has a beard. It is as if he is indicating that it is a man. However, the majority hold the opinion that it is a beast. In other words, that it's not a man. And so you can see there's a lot of difference of opinion in the tafsir about the nature of this beast. This is one of the sort of famous narrations which, once again, is weak. And I think, you know, for me, it's just random. You know, I would never have say anything disrespectful about any hadith, but it's more like, you know, it's of the weaker category that rationally doesn't seem to, you know, fit together to my head anyway. You know, like its head is like a bull, eyes like a pig, ears like an elephant, horns like a stag, neck of an ostrich, chest like a lion, color of a tiger, flanks of a cat, tail of a ram, feet and legs like a camel. I don't know if people have tried to draw this. It'd be interesting I want a project for you, Samir, next project. When we do our next poster for the Eschatology, we'll try to draw draw this beast in this description. For me, that's a bit random, to be honest. We have to have our methodology. You know, the strongest is the Quran, then the Sahih, and then these type of narrations may be weak or very weak, or as you said, they might even be from Israeliyat. They may be even from non-prophetic sources.
It has not been validated in any other hadith, not even by another one.
It's as Zubair reported. So I don't think it's even attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. Allahu alam. To be honest, I haven't looked into it deeply because for me it wasn't something to pursue.
It could also be a culmination of essences, not literal.
Yeah, exactly. Could be, yeah. Could be an idea there that it somehow will encompass in the faculties of all these creatures, you know? So, yeah, could be. Not to be taken literally. What does Qurtubi say? One of the famous Mufassirun. He says there are huge differences of opinion regarding this beast and its description and its place of emergence. We're going to go into that later, the place of emergence. It is said that it is the Jassasa. And as I said, this is the opinion that I'm going to follow because I feel it fits into the other realities of what we're seeing. And that is the opinion of Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah ibn Umar is the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and as I say, considered, by consensus considered, if not the most, but one of the few most knowledgeable of the younger Sahaba. If we go to Tafsir Ibn Kathir, he narrates from Ibn Majah. Buraidah said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took me to a place in the desert. This is a hadith about the emergence, a place of emergence that we're going to look at. Took me to a place in the desert close to Mecca. There was dry earth with sand around it. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the beast will emerge from this place. Then, فَإِذَا فِتَرْ فِي شِبَرٍ. It's probably some sort of expression in Arabic. Fitr fi shibr literally means, in today's terms, like centimeters in meters or inches in feet. Fitr is a measurement, and shibr is a measurement of like a hand span. And fitr is a measurement of like a finger span. Like the old, Allahu alam if there's another meaning of that. Interesting thing here is about the dry earth with the sand. As you will see, I'm going to argue that the beast is actually the surveillance systems, the computer systems that we have that are gathering data about everyone on the earth. So the computer internet systems And we know that the computers are made of silicon, which is ultimately what sand is made of silicon. And it's interesting that he explicitly mentions there that this was a sandy spot, right? And contrary to most people's opinions, deserts are not all sand. Arabia is not all sand. Deserts are mainly dry earth, yeah, and actual sandy regions are quite few and far between in the desert lands. So this is something that is not something that I've come up with, but actually I first took this from Sheikh Hamza Yusuf about the beast will come from silicon. It will be made from silicon, and we'll mention where he mentions that later on. So Hawlaha Ramal, he specifically says this was an earth which had sand around it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the beast will emerge from this place. But did he say from this place, or did he say from this substance, in other words? This is the sort of what do you call it? The sort of tantalizing thing here, because in the actual hadith it says min hadil mawdi', it will come from this place. But remember, we said the hadith are narrated by meaning, not by precise wordings. Yeah. So could it have been actually? Because remember, the Prophet ﷺ was, when he was telling the Sahaba things about Akhir al-Zaman, he had to. It was way out of their frame of reference. So you can easily see that little change taking place.
Ibn Majah. So
Yeah.
what's the scale of the hadith again?
I'm not sure. I haven't checked the authenticity of it. Yeah. It's likely not to be the strongest, but maybe not the weakest. But yeah, the interesting thing is here is whether what happened. What actually happened? Did the Prophet ﷺ point to the sand and say the beast will come from this? And the way the Sahabi took it was, he will come out of this place. Allah alim, I don't know. It's just one of those things, yeah. The beast of the earth is the jasasa. This is what Zamakhshari says in his tafsir. Another one of the famous tafsirs. It's quite a brief tafsir, and he just says this: the beast is the jasasa, which obviously I like that because
he would apply logic as well, though, wouldn't he?
Yes,
Those things.
very correct. Yeah. So Zamakhshari is more of a rationalist,
Yeah.
and he was a Mu'tazilite as well. And we go to Tafsir of Fakhr al-Razi. This is one of the most extensive tafsirs that we still have from the classical period. Obviously, Fakhr al-Razi, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars and also theologians. Very, very precise, as you would expect from a theologian who's also a very rationalist scholar. So he basically says numerous opinions about the beast, its description, place of emergence, mode of emergence. Razi summarizes the various opinions, and then he says, after giving all of these different opinions that we already mentioned before, he says, none of this is verified by the Quran, about the beast being the head of a bull and all these things. So whatever of that can be reliably traced back to the Messenger of Allah, then it is accepted. Otherwise, no regard is to be paid to it. Yeah? So he's very explicit. And this goes back to, once again, the methodology which we were talking about last time. Right? Yes, these things are there, all of these descriptions and things. But if they're not reliable, they're not sahih, then I wouldn't say no regard, but we just take it very carefully. And certainly not, compare it to the information we have from the Quran. which is tier 1, obviously, and then the Sahih or Mutawatir. So, as I say, the basic argument today is that the beast has emerged or is emerging in our lifetime, and this beast is actually made up of silicon. It is made up of network of computers around the world, and it's known as the internet. Okay? Okay, so the argument, central argument of today's lesson is, and for some of you this may be something completely new. I'm not sure if you ever come across this before. It is quite, like I say, I've drawn this. Sheikh Hamza gave the hint of this hint. He hasn't explicitly elaborated on it himself, but when he said it's silicon, it was obvious what the hint was for someone to take that further. Yeah. So the beast, the argument today will be that the beast mentioned in the Quran is made up of what people are now calling artificial intelligence, right? So it's a beast that is made from silicon, and it's a beast that will speak, or it will mark people. It will have each person's thing, what is he, a believer, disbeliever, all these things. So first, turning to the Jassasa aspect. So as you've seen, many of the opinions are around the fact that the beast is the Jassasa. And we already said Jassasa means literally the intensive form of spying. Like we say, Alim is a man of knowledge. Allama is someone of very great knowledge. It's intensive in Arabic. So same with Jassasa. Jassasa is from the same pattern as Allama. So not just a spy, but extreme spying. Yeah, spying to the extreme level. And we know now that we're in what scientists or social scientists are describing as a surveillance society. Everything is seen, everything is heard, everything is recorded about us. Yeah? I don't need to elaborate on that much. All of you know that, yeah? All of your emails, your phone calls, your text messages. There's no such thing as privacy, right? And especially for us that live in London, London is actually the most surveillanced city in the world in terms of cameras. Yeah? There's practically no spot in London, a public space in London, that you can't be seen by a camera. And now, obviously, with satellites, I mean, you can see it everywhere. But in London specifically, they have cameras everywhere, which they can, see you. Now, it's also mentioned in one of the hadith, which I didn't reference because I read it some years back, and unfortunately, I didn't jot down the reference, so I need to dig it back up. But it definitely said in one of them, when it talks about the beast is Jassasa, it says that this Jassasa will give information about all the people to Dajjal. That's the job of the Jassasa, right? The spy master, let's call it spy master, right? Intensive form of spying. The spy master will have information about all human beings in the world, and he will make that available to Dajjal. It's explicitly said that. And inshallah, I'm going to dig up the reference for you guys later. But you can see how it links up to the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari that we mentioned before, that Jassasa was there, and then he sent them to Dajjal, right? Dajjal is the all-seeing eye. Don't forget the eye of Dajjal, that eye in the symbol, the Freemasonic symbol, which is taken up by on the seal of the United States of America. It's actually on the Great Seal of the Islam of the United States of America, though it's also known as the all-seeing eye. The project is to see everything, measure everything, know about everyone. We'll give you references on that in the following slides. So the beast is the one that brings this information and makes it available to Dajjal. So Sheikh Hamza as I say, he's someone who gives hints sometimes, and he leaves it for people to follow that up, you know. So he said this years back to me, or not to me direct, but in a group, you know, and he said, you know, it will come from silica. And he said that Bukhari has got a hadith in Tariq al-Kabir. So not in the Sahih, Imam al-Bukhari has other books as well. One of his books, Tariq al-Kabir, it's a very extensive, long book. And Imam al-Bukhari, in those other works, he contains hadith which are not as strong. So in the Sahih al-Bukhari, he only collects the very strongest. But he has got other works where he's got other hadiths which are not as strong, you know, which he also narrates. So apparently, he has a narration that the Prophet indicated that the beast will arise from silica in the earth. I haven't been able to find the actual narration in the Tariq al-Kabir myself, and I haven't been able to ask Sheikh Hamza for that, but Sheikh Hamza also references it in his Imam al-Tahawi translation, which is in English, which I've got the reference in the next slide. But as we said, you know, computers are made from silicon. So going back to that hadith, the very tantalizing, that the beast will emerge from this place. Was it from this place, or was it from this? From this substance, in other words, you know? And that Sahabi has just narrated it according to his understanding. You see what I mean? You know, the beast had hair all over its body, so we could not tell the front from the back. Yeah? That's the whole point of the internet. There's no front or back. There's no head, there's no limbs. So this is what Imam Hamza Yusuf has written in the Imam al-Tahawi, Creed of Imam al-Tahawi. I'm sure a lot of you have that translation of Sheikh Hamza, and you maybe never noticed this little point that he's written, a footnote on the beast, right? So this is one of his footnotes on page, there's a reference there, just by coincidence, 66, the page number, footnote 66. So he says, the beast of the earth is an unprecedented creation that emerges from the substance silica, according to a hadith recorded in Bukhari's Tariq. So you can see that Sheikh Hamza is there giving quite a obvious hint of what he's saying, really, even though he doesn't explicitly say what he's trying to say. We mentioned artificial intelligence now, how so we're seeing the emergence of this beast in our lifetime. It hasn't fully formed yet. It's happening over years. So this goes back to that hairy beast. We could not tell the front from the back. It was just hairy all over, yeah. Yeah?
A server tower with lots of wires coming out.
Server, yeah, exactly. I like that, yes. But you know, the point here is we could not tell its front from its back. The internet has no front or back. That was the whole point. Those who designed the internet, the military, US military, designed it so that it could never be taken out. If something has a head, you take out the head and the thing goes down. They wanted to devise a system that had no one head, you know. So even if you take out that part of it, the rest of it will still function as a complete beast. Oh, sorry, I'm calling it beast, but as a complete thing. Also, if we take that second reading, taklimuhum, strike them. Yeah? So it will speak to them or it will strike them. Now we have got the internet, you know, the drones, smart bombs. I mean, this is, in 10, 20 years' time, it's going to be robot wars. There's no doubt about that. You know, that's exactly what they want. They want to have robot armies, so they no longer have to put boots on the ground. I mean, this is Pentagon's dream since the end of World War II. This is what they've been, you know, gradually going towards. So this beast that they're creating will literally strike down human beings as well. That's the other way. Remember I said taklimuhum can be a knife striking as well. wounding. It can be wounding, not marking. So both ways we have, this fulfillment of this beast. So then, going on to, let's reflect about what is the meaning of beast itself in Arabic. What does it mean when Allah says beast? So according to the dictionary's definition of beast, Dabba, kullu ma yadibbu ala al-ard. A dabba is anything that treads upon the earth is a dabba. Because the root word for dabba is dabba yadibbu, to tread. Yeah, so it can be anything that moves or treads upon the earth is dabba. So then if we look at it from a more rational point of view, what is a beast? What is a beast that we think of? A beast is normally a living creature, right? What is a living creature? A living creature is, you have a brain or a central nervous system. Not all creatures have brains because they're too small. They just may have a few, but they will have nerve cells, right? That's how we basically live or communicate or move through nerve cells, right? Central nervous system and peripheral. So your central nervous system in higher animals is called a brain because there's so many nerve cells there concentrated. But then you have, from the central nervous system, you have nerve cells going to every part of your body. Yeah? Every single part of your body has got nerve cells. Apart from the places that are dead, like your hair or nails, they're dead skin, dead cells. But anything that is alive will have the nervous system connected to it. And all of that connects back to the central nervous system, right? So there's a communication. Quite fascinating how the cells, nerve cells in particular, how they communicate with each other. Right? So the brain, the central nervous system, is made of billions and billions, in fact trillions of nerve cells. And each of those nerve cells communicates with those around it. Not just with one interface, but with multiple interfaces, maybe hundreds, even thousands. And when we say trillions of brain cells, we're talking about more brain cells in your one person's brain than there are stars in the sky, or than there are stars in the whole universe. So it's such a high mind-boggling number of nerve cells that each human being has. That is just beyond what we can conceive or imagine. And then, if on top of that you factor that each nerve cell has got multiple connections to every other nerve cell, the level of complexity becomes very, very, very high. So, and now actually they're finding, latest research has found that within nerve cells, within one nerve cell, there's an immense degree of complexity as well. So that is just, it just takes it to a level that we can't really get to. But anyway, the point here is this internet that is being created has got very similar properties to these living beasts, right? So the way computers work, the way signals travel, they're very similar to nerve cells. Often people think that these signals are traveling through space, but the vast majority of the signals on the internet are traveling through cables, right, that go under the oceans, underground. So the amount of data that's traveling through space is very, very less. Like from your smartphone, obviously it's going through space to the nearest tower or whatever, but from there it gets put into the cables. So you have, what you have in effect, what we're having now is lots of these individual computers, but they're all linked together, you know, and that's the vital thing. When they link together, they become they communicate, you know, all these levels like nerve cells. So they become like one giant beast that has got this, you know, spread around the whole world, around the whole globe. So there's so many different limbs to the beast. We talked about robots, you know, smart cars, drones. All of these, your smartphones are all linked in as well. All of our smartphones were all linked into the beast, right? What's the, you know, the big difference between a living creature and the internet is that living creatures have what? Consciousness, yeah, consciousness. And as a result of consciousness, you have will, free will. This is the key difference between the computer or the internet and a living creature like a human being. Do animals have a free will? Would you say? Do animals have free will?
Yeah,
You think so? Yeah.
They have a soul.
They have soul. Animals have soul, we know that. Limited will, yeah. I mean, generally speaking, we normally, in our theology and everything, we say that it's human beings and jinn that have free will in terms of doing right and wrong. Animals are more limited, aren't they? They're...
Well, like the hooper bird or the ant.
Yes.
They're able to get out of the way.
I mean, animals definitely have communication with each other, and they seem to make choices in some way. But they don't have a taklif, they don't have a responsibility to be good or bad, do they? So there's a difference between human and jinn and animals, that animals are not, we don't say they're sinful, even if they go and kill another animal or do whatever they want, you know, they're not sinful. So it's interesting that, you know, there's a difference there. But they do seem to make choices, I guess, really. So consciousness is an important concept. It's when a being becomes aware of itself. Yeah, a being is aware of itself. So computers, as far as we know, are not aware. They don't have any self-awareness. They're simply things that we have created that just move about as we tell them to, right? So they don't have any self-awareness. There are some theories out there, theories of artificial intelligence, or actually these are theories of brain and consciousness. There is a theory that, because there's a lot of speculation, why do some creatures become conscious? Why do we become self-aware, you know? So one theory is that it's the level of complexity. The level of complexity of the human brain that we already talked about. Actually, when you reach a certain level of complexity, suddenly consciousness comes about. I'm not saying it's just a theory. I don't have an opinion on it. Maybe it's true. Maybe that's how Allah has made His sunan, you know, that that's why we have consciousness, because there's that complexity. Allahu Alam. So there are these theories that when the internet, because you can't talk about one computer will never reach the level of complexity of the human brain, not even close. You can't even envisage them building any computer ever that would even come close to even a fraction of the human brain, the complexity of the human brain. But when you look at the internet, you're looking at now billions of computers all linked together. Right? Billions, literally. You know, because nearly everyone now has a smartphone. People have personal computers, so we're talking billions of computers all linked together. There you're not really even still reaching the complexity of one human brain, but you're sort of approaching the magnitude of a human brain. You know, you're still far away from a human brain, just one human brain. Especially, like I said, if you look at the nerve cell in the human brain, even inside the nerve cell, there's a massive degree of complexity that they're finding more and more about, intracellular complexity. But, so the theory is that when the global computer network or the internet, when it comes to a certain level of complexity, it will suddenly gain consciousness or self-awareness. People may have seen this in science fiction writing or science fiction films. Yeah? The Terminator, I don't want to get too much, but like there's that Marvel movie of that, I can't remember what it was called, that he suddenly gets consciousness, right? And I think that was quite, because that consciousness is the whole internet, you know, as a whole. We're not talking about one computer, but as a whole. That's quite a scary thought, and I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen or not, but it's just an interesting theory that is out there.
Oh, flash of light in the flow of a time, sweet Medina, beloved of mine.